James Reed stood at the viewport of Europa Station, watching Jupiter's massive form fill half the sky. 5 years had passed since the Orion conflict ended. 5 years since humanity and the Vex had stopped trying to wipe each other out. 5 years wasn't nearly enough time to forget. Reed ran his hand over the scar that cut across his left cheek. A Vex energy blade had given him that during the Battle of Mars. The same battle where he'd lost Mary and their daughter Emma. The doctors had offered to remove the scar, but Reed kept it. Some wounds needed to be remembered. Commander Reed, Ambassador Thul is ready for you. Reed nodded to the young aide and straightened his uniform. As Earth's military liaison to the Vex embassy, these meetings were his job. That didn't make them easy. The embassy's main chamber was kept uncomfortably warm for human standards, a concession to Vex biology. Ambassador Thul rose from his seat, towering over Reed. Like all Vex, Thul had rough, gray-blue skin and 4 arms, but his eyes lacked the coldness Reed had seen in so many others of his kind. Commander Reed, thank you for coming. Thul's voice translator gave his words a metallic quality. Please, sit. Reed took a seat across from the ambassador. The joint patrol schedules need your approval. Thul's upper set of hands tapped on a data tablet, while his lower set remained folded in what Reed had learned was a sign of respect. These are acceptable. I am pleased to see our ships will cooperate near the mining colonies. Thul's large eyes blinked slowly. Progress, yes. Reed nodded stiffly. Progress. For nearly an hour, they discussed the mundane details that kept the peace functioning. Trade routes, diplomatic visits, cultural exchange programs. It was boring work, but Reed understood its importance. Boring meant no one was dying. As the meeting concluded, Thul's demeanor changed. He dismissed his aides with a quick gesture. Commander, there is something else. Thul lowered his voice. There are elements among my people who believe this peace makes us weak. Reed's muscles tensed. We have similar elements. Yes, but mine grow bolder. The Purity Dominion gains support daily. Thul's secondary arms twitched with anxiety. They see humans as a threat to our evolutionary destiny. Are they a serious concern? Reed asked. Not yet, but I wanted you to know I am watching them closely. Thul's eyes met Reed's. I lost family in the war too, Commander. I have no wish to see more death. Reed was surprised by the aliens' candor. Perhaps they weren't so different after all. Later that night, Reed couldn't sleep. He paced his quarters, thoughts churning. The peace was working, despite what the hardliners on both sides claimed. Trade had resumed. Both species were rebuilding. There was even talk of joint scientific missions. His comm unit chimed. Reed here. Commander, secure transmission from Earth Command, the station's AI announced. Admiral West's stern face appeared on the screen. Reed, how's our blue friend? Thul seems genuinely committed to the peace. He mentioned a faction called the Purity Dominion that bears watching. West nodded. Keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, Project Nemesis enters Phase 3 next month. The weapons tests exceeded expectations. Reed frowned. Sir, if the Vex discover we're developing. They won't. West cut him off. And we're not developing anything. We're ensuring survival. The truce is fine, Reed, but I'm not betting humanity's future on alien promises. After the call ended, Reed returned to the viewport. Jupiter's great red spot swirled below, a storm that had raged for centuries. Reed couldn't shake the feeling that another storm was brewing, one that wouldn't be confined to swirling gas. Peace was fragile. Reed knew that better than most. But for now, it held. For now, there was hope. He didn't see the encrypted transmission that flashed between a Vex transport and a hidden base deep in Saturn's rings. He didn't see the weapons being assembled by hands that believed peace was the true enemy. Not yet. Reed's alarm blared at 400 hours. The emergency light bathed his quarters in red. He was fully awake in seconds, military training taking over. Commander Reed to Command Center immediately, the station AI announced. Reed pulled on his uniform and ran. The station's corridors were filled with frantic personnel. When he reached the command center, Admiral West's grim face was already on the main screen. "We've lost contact with Titan Research Station," West said without greeting. "All 43 scientists gone silent 6 hours ago." Reed felt his stomach drop. "Equipment failure. We sent a drone. I'm forwarding the footage now." The screen changed to show the interior of the research station. Reed's breath caught in his throat. Bodies lay scattered across the floor. Blood painted the walls. Equipment was destroyed. The carnage was total. "Those are Vex weapon signatures," Reed said quietly. "The energy burns are distinctive." 3 colony ships also destroyed in deep space, West continued. "All evidence points to Vex attacks. The President is addressing the public in 1 hour." Reed shook his head. "This doesn't make sense. I spoke with Thull yesterday. The peace was holding." "Tell that to the families of the dead," West snapped. "Report back to Earth immediately. We need you here." As the screen went dark, Reed's mind raced. This had to be the work of the Purity Dominion. Thull wouldn't have sanctioned this. He had to speak with the ambassador. Reed hurried to the Vex embassy, only to find it locked down. Armed Vex guards blocked the entrance. "I need to speak with Ambassador Thull," Reed demanded. "The ambassador is unavailable," the guard's translator crackled. "All human personnel must leave Vex territory immediately." "This is a joint station," Reed argued. "Let me speak to Thull." The guard raised his weapon. "Depart now." Reed backed away, his mind working. He had a secret communication channel to Thull for emergencies. He would try that from his quarters. Throughout the station, screens showed the devastation on Titan. People watched in horror as footage of the destroyed colony ships followed. Human news networks were already calling it the second betrayal. In his quarters, Reed activated his secure comm unit. "Ambassador Thull, please respond. This is Commander Reed." After several tense minutes, the screen flickered to life. Thull looked agitated, all 4 of his arms moving nervously. "Commander, I did not authorize these attacks," Thull said hurriedly. "The Purity Dominion has seized control of several military vessels. They act against the government's wishes." "I need proof, Thull," Reed said. "Humans are dead. Many humans." "I am sending you encrypted communications we intercepted," Thull replied. "The Dominion planned this for months." "They." A loud crash sounded from Thull's end. "They're here. They know I'm contacting you." "Thull, who's there? What's happening?" The ambassador looked directly into the camera. "Commander Reed, if our species are to survive, you must understand. This is not the will of all Vex. The Dominion believes eliminating humans is necessary for." The feed cut off with the sound of energy weapons firing. Reed downloaded the data Thull had sent. It contained communications between Purity Dominion leaders, planning the attacks to look like official Vex military operations. Before Reed could analyze further, his comm unit chimed again. "All personnel, emergency evacuation ordered. Repeat, all personnel must evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." Reed grabbed the data drive and ran for the docking bay. Outside the viewport, he saw Vex warships appearing from jump points. Many more than should have been in the area. As his shuttle pulled away from Europa Station, Reed watched as the first shots were fired. The truce wasn't just broken. It was obliterated. Reed's shuttle docked at the Mars Defense Station. The red planet loomed large in the viewport, home to over 10 million colonists. After escaping Europa, Reed had transmitted Thull's data to Earth Command, hoping it would make a difference. Now he waited for orders while monitoring the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Commander Reed, incoming transmission from Admiral West," announced the station's communications officer. West's face appeared on screen, lines of exhaustion etched deeper than Reed had ever seen. "Reed, have you seen the news?" West asked. No, sir. I've been debriefing the station commander. West's expression darkened. The Vex government is denying responsibility for the attacks. They claim these are actions of a splinter group. Your evidence supports that claim, but public opinion. He paused. It doesn't matter now. Sir, they've attacked Mars colony. Read. 3 Vex capital ships jumped in 20 minutes ago. They targeted the main dome first. Reed felt the blood drain from his face. Casualties. Initial estimates are in the millions. The colony's defenses were designed for meteors, not warships. West's voice was hollow. The president is about to declare the truce officially broken. All Vex in human space are being detained. Reed stared in disbelief. Mars colony was one of humanity's oldest and largest settlements. This wasn't the work of a splinter group. This was full-scale war. Your orders, sir. Return to Earth immediately. We need your first-hand knowledge of current Vex tactics and capabilities. The journey to Earth was the longest of Reed's life. He watched helplessly as news reports showed the devastation on Mars. The red planet's surface was scarred with new craters where domes had once stood. Emergency vehicles swarmed the remaining habitats. Civilian ships fled in chaotic streams. When his shuttle approached Earth, Reed was shocked by the transformation. The orbital defense platforms that had been dormant since the truce were now fully activated. Military vessels formed protective screens around the planet. Earth had awakened for war. At Earth Command Headquarters, Reed was immediately ushered into a high-security briefing room. The screens showed military leaders from colonies across the solar system. All faces were grim, determined. Commander Reed, General Miller nodded. Before we begin, there's something you should see. The main screen switched to footage from what Reed recognized as the Vex embassy on Europa. Ambassador Thull stood surrounded by his own security team. The time-stamp showed this was taken shortly after Reed's escape. I have transmitted proof of the Dominion's treachery to human authorities, Thull was saying. This violence must end before. One of his guards fired an energy weapon into Thull's back. As the ambassador fell, the guard removed his helmet, revealing the distinctive markings of a Purity Dominion officer. The corrupt element has been eliminated, the officer announced. The Dominion now speaks for all Vex. Humanity is an evolutionary mistake that must be corrected. Reed watched in horror as Thull, the last voice for peace, died on the embassy floor. That broadcast went out across all Vex channels, Miller explained. The Purity Dominion has taken control of the Vex government. Reed looked around the room. The faces that stared back at him were not the same diplomatic, cautious leaders who had signed the peace accord. These were the faces of a species that had tried peace and been rewarded with slaughter. Project Nemesis is now active, Admiral West announced. All restrictions on military response have been lifted. Reed felt something shift inside himself. The part of him that had hoped for lasting peace died as surely as Thull had. Humanity tried peace, Miller said, his voice steel. Now they'll learn what happens when humanity stops holding back. Reed stepped out of the shuttle onto the lunar surface. The Earth hung in the black sky, beautiful and blue. Hard to believe that just 2 weeks ago, he had been working for peace. A woman in a lab coat waited for him at the airlock. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her face serious. Commander Reed, I'm Director Anna Foster. Welcome to Project Nemesis. They walked through corridors carved deep into the moon's surface. Reed had heard whispers about a secret base here, but the scale shocked him. Thousands of personnel moved with purpose through the massive facility. For 5 years, Foster explained, while diplomats talked peace, we prepared for war. Not because we wanted it, but because we knew the Vex might never accept real peace. They entered a vast chamber where workers assembled sleek, black ships unlike any Reed had seen before. The Lazarus Fleet, Foster said with pride. 50 ships with technology the Vex can't even imagine. How is that possible? Reed asked. Their tech was ahead of ours during the last war. Foster smiled thinly. We learned from them. During the first conflict, we captured damaged Vex ships, studied them, then we improved them. She led Reed to another section where soldiers trained with strange weapons. Quantum-phased weapons, she explained. They bypass Vex shields completely. In the last war, their shields made them nearly invincible. Not anymore. Reed watched a demonstration where a weapons beam passed through a standard Vex shield and destroyed the target behind it. "We need someone to lead the first strike team," Foster said, turning to face Reed directly. "Someone who knows Vex tactics. Someone they won't expect to hit them so hard." Reed understood immediately. "You want me?" "Admiral West recommended you personally. You've spent years studying them. You know how they think." In a large briefing room, Foster showed Reed the attack plan. A holographic map displayed Vex territory, with one system highlighted. Epsilon Eridani, Foster said, home to their largest shipyard. "The Purity Dominion is building their invasion fleet there. They'll expect us to defend, not attack." Reed noted. "Their psychology values patience. They believe humans are impulsive, emotional. Exactly why our first strike will shock them," Foster agreed. "The Lazarus fleet can reach Epsilon Eridani in 3 days using the new drives. Your mission is to destroy their shipyard and return." Reed studied the plans. "They'll have heavy defenses. That's where this comes in." Foster handed Reed a small device. "We call it the Blackout. It creates a field that disrupts Vex communication networks for 6 hours. Their ships can't coordinate. Their weapons targeting fails." Reed looked around at the massive operation. All this was happening while we negotiated peace. Foster's expression hardened. "Humanity tried peace with open hearts, but we prepared for war with open eyes." Later, as Reed toured the facility, he met the soldiers who would form his strike team. Men and women with hard eyes and quiet voices. Many had lost family in the First War or in the recent attacks. "We're ready to hit back, Commander," said Lieutenant Banks, a tough woman with scars on her face. "Just give the word." That night, Reed couldn't sleep. He thought of Thul, genuinely working for peace, murdered by his own people. He thought of Mars' colony in flames. The millions dead. Tomorrow, he would board the lead ship of the Lazarus fleet. Tomorrow, humanity would reveal what it had been building in secret. Tomorrow, the Vex would learn that breaking the truce was the worst mistake they could have made. Humanity had tried peace. Now, humanity would show the galaxy what it was truly capable of when pushed too far. The sleeping giant had awakened. The Lazarus fleet moved silently through space. 50 black ships, almost invisible against the darkness. On the command deck of the flagship Vengeance, Reed studied the tactical display. Epsilon Eridani grew larger as they approached. 2 hours to target, Lieutenant Banks reported. Her hands moved confidently over the controls. Reed nodded. "Status of the blackout device." "Ready, sir." For 3 days, they had traveled faster than any human ships before. The new drives left no energy signature for Vex sensors to detect. They would arrive completely unexpected. "Sir, we're picking up Vex communications," the communications officer said. "They're discussing the attacks on human colonies. They're celebrating." Reed felt cold anger settle in his chest. Record everything. The people back home should hear this. The Vengeance slipped past the outer sensor network of Epsilon Eridani. Through the viewports, Reed could see the massive Vex shipyard. Dozens of warships under construction. The invasion fleet meant to finish what they had started at Mars. "All ships in position," Banks confirmed. Reed took a deep breath. "Activate the blackout." The small device hummed to life. On the tactical display, Vex communication signals suddenly disappeared. "All ships, weapons free," Reed ordered. "Execute attack plan Alpha." The Lazarus fleet emerged from stealth mode. The quantum phase weapons fired as one. Beams of energy passed through the shipyard shields, as if they weren't there. The first explosion was massive. A nearly completed Vex dreadnought broke apart. its reactor detonating. Chain reactions spread across the shipyard. Vex defensive ships scrambled to respond, but without communications, they fired blindly into space. "Their weapons can't lock onto us," Banks said, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "The stealth hulls are working perfectly." The Lazarus fleet moved through the Vex defenses like ghosts. Weapons that would have destroyed human ships in the last war now passed harmlessly through advanced shielding. "Sir, Vex command ship detected," the tactical officer reported. "Heavy armor, but our weapons should penetrate." Reed studied the massive vessel trying to coordinate the chaotic defense. "All ships, focus fire on the command ship." The Lazarus fleet turned as one. 50 quantum beams converged on the Vex command ship. Its shields flared and died. The hull armor melted away. Secondary explosions rippled along its length before it split apart. "Sir, we're being hailed," the communications officer said in surprise. "It's coming from one of the smaller Vex vessels." "On screen," Reed ordered. A Vex officer appeared. Unlike most Vex, this one had gold markings on his face, a high-ranking commander. His voice translator couldn't hide his shock. "Human forces. How is this possible? Our intelligence said you had no such weapons." Reed stood tall. "You should have honored the peace. We calculated a 97% chance of victory," the Vex commander said, almost to himself. "Our analysts assured us your technology was inferior." "Your analysts were wrong," Reed replied coldly. "Surrender your remaining forces." The Vex commander's 4 arms moved in a gesture Reed recognized as deep distress. The Purity Dominion promised easy victory. They said humans were weak, divided. You are neither. Around them, the shipyard continued to burn. What should have been a long, grinding war had become a devastating defeat for the Vex in just 30 minutes. "Prepare to be boarded," Reed ordered. "Your ship and crew will be taken to Earth for questioning." As Reed's strike team secured the Vex command vessel, they found data stores containing the Purity Dominion's full war plans. The hardliners had expected an easy victory based on faulty intelligence. They had never imagined what humanity had been building during the years of peace. They had never expected the sleeping giant to wake so powerful, so prepared. They had never expected humanity's wrath to be so unstoppable. 2 months after the victory, at Epsilon Eridani, humanity pushed deep into Vex territory. The Lazarus fleet, now expanded to over 200 ships, seemed unstoppable. Reed sat in the war room on Earth, studying reports of another successful mission. "Commander Reed," Admiral West said as he entered the room. "Congratulations on the victory at Proxima Centauri." Reed nodded. "The Vex are retreating on all fronts. Their weapons can't touch our ships, which is why I need you for a special mission." West activated a holographic display showing a distant star system. "We've decoded information from the Vex commander you captured. The Purity Dominion has a super weapon hidden on their homeworld." The display zoomed in to show a massive structure. "What kind of weapon?" Reed asked. "One that can collapse stars." West's face was grim. If they activated, billions of humans across multiple systems would die instantly. Reed studied the schematics. "They're desperate." "Yes, and desperate enemies are the most dangerous." West looked Reed in the eye. "We need a small team to infiltrate the Vex homeworld and destroy this weapon before they can use it." Reed knew what West was asking. "When do we leave?" 3 days later, Reed's stealth ship approached the Vex homeworld. With him were 12 of his best soldiers, including Lieutenant Banks. The massive planet loomed ahead, covered in sprawling cities unlike anything on Earth. "Their defenses are concentrated around the capital," Banks reported. "The weapon is located beneath the central dome." Reed checked his quantum phase rifle. "We'll use the chaos of their defensive preparations as cover. With the blackout device, they won't know we're there until it's too late." The stealth ship slipped past the orbital defenses and landed in a remote area. Reed's team moved quickly through the alien city, their advanced suits allowing them to blend with the shadows. Strange to see their world, Banks whispered as they passed tall buildings with curves and angles that hurt human eyes. Never thought I'd stand on Vex soil. They'd reached the central dome without detection. The blackout device masked their approach, causing nearby Vex security systems to fail. Inside, they found less resistance than expected. They've committed most of their forces to the front lines, Reed realized. They never expected we'd reach their homeworld so quickly. Deep beneath the central dome, they located the superweapon control center. The massive device hummed with power, its core glowing with strange energy. Plant the charges, Reed ordered. We have 10 minutes to get clear. As his team set explosives, Reed heard movement behind him. He turned to find himself facing a Vex unlike any he'd seen before. This one wore elaborate golden armor and had 6 arms instead of 4. The markings on his face identified him as Krall, supreme leader of the Purity Dominion. Commander Reed, Krall said without using a translator. His perfect English was surprising. You have fought well, but you cannot understand why this is necessary. Reed kept his weapon aimed at Krall. Necessary? You broke the peace. You killed millions. To save billions. Krall gestured to a display showing deep space. We detected signals from beyond the galaxy. Something ancient approaches. Something terrible. The display showed strange energy patterns moving toward the galaxy. We built this weapon not for you, but for them, Krall continued. The Dominion believes only by controlling all resources in this sector can we prepare for what comes. Reed hesitated. You attacked us because of a potential threat. We attacked you because we are afraid, Krall admitted. Afraid of what comes from the darkness between stars. Reed faced an impossible choice. Complete humanity's vengeance by destroying the weapon in Krall, or consider the possibility of a greater threat requiring both species to survive. Banks approached. Charges set, sir. 8 minutes to detonation. Reed stared at the countdown timer. 7 minutes until the superweapon became dust. 7 minutes to decide. Show me proof, he demanded of Krall. Show me these signals. Krall moved to a console and entered a complex sequence. The screens around them changed to show deep space readings. Strange patterns pulsed across the display, unlike anything Reed had seen. These began 3 years ago, Krall explained. Our scientists detected them from the void between galaxies. They grow stronger each month. Reed studied the data. The patterns were too regular to be natural. Sir, we need to leave now, Banks urged. 6 minutes remaining. Reed made his decision. Modify the charges. Destroy the weapon but leave the data centers intact. He turned to Krall. You're coming with us. Krall's eyes widened. You believe me? I don't know what to believe, Reed said truthfully. But Earth scientists should see this data. They raced back to the ship, Krall in restraints. Behind them, explosions rocked the central dome as the superweapon's power core detonated. As their ship broke atmosphere, Reed saw Vex vessels scrambling in confusion. Set course for Earth, Reed ordered, and get me a direct line to Admiral West. West's face appeared on screen, changing from satisfaction to shock when he saw Krall. Reed, explain yourself. Sir, the situation is more complicated than we thought. Reed transferred the deep space readings. The Vex detected something coming toward our galaxy, something that scared them enough to go to war. 1 week later, Reed stood before Earth's Unified Defense Council. The room was tense as he finished his report. The choice before us is clear, Reed said. Continue our now certain victory over the Vex, or prepare for something potentially worse. Admiral West spoke. Commander Reed has verified the deep space signals. Our scientists confirm they are artificial and approaching our galaxy at incredible speed. Director Foster added, we've cross-referenced with our own deep space monitoring stations. We detected similar anomalies but classified them as background noise. The Vex interpretation appears correct. The Council President looked troubled. What do you recommend, Commander Reed? Reed took a deep breath. Not peace as before. The Purity Dominion must answer for Mars colony and our other losses. But total destruction of the Vex would weaken us all against what's coming. He proposed a new treaty, a conditional surrender that would bring the Vex under human protection, while holding the Dominion's leadership accountable for war crimes. 3 months later, Reed stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's largest orbital platform. Below, the blue planet spun peacefully. Beside him stood a Vex representative, not Krell, who awaited trial, but a new ambassador chosen jointly by both species. The first Vex refugee ships arrive tomorrow, the ambassador said. Many still fear humans, but more fear what comes from deep space. Reed nodded. The war production is being converted to deep space monitoring platforms. The Lazarus fleet patrols the outer systems. On a large display, scientists from both species analyze the latest signals. The unknown entity had accelerated. First contact was now estimated in less than 5 years. Do you think we can face it? The ambassador asked. Reed watched as a formation of human ships escorted Vex civilian vessels toward Earth. Former enemies, now reluctant allies. Alone, perhaps not, Reed admitted. Together, we have a chance. He thought of Thul, of Mars colony, of all that had been lost. Vengeance had been within humanity's grasp, but sometimes survival required more than vengeance. Reed looked outward toward the darkness between stars. Humanity's fleet, once built for retribution, now stood as an unexpected shield for a galaxy that had yet to comprehend what was awakening. Beyond vengeance lay something greater: purpose.